Welcome back to Roster the People. This is it, the long-awaited wrap-up show. Today is the 27th of August. We are recording. Today's the 28th of August. I don't know what day it is. That's the kind of week I'm having. As virtue of the fact that I haven't shaved, that's the kind of week I'm having right here. Like, I'm having a full-on Robin Williams from Jumanji. What year is it? Kind of week. It's the last week of the month, and that makes my life very challenging for reasons that I'm not getting into. So there you go. So we're here on the 28th. It's Wednesday. This is going to come up live for you on Saturday. So tune it. So check this out before your draft starts. I know a lot of people are drafting this weekend, and a lot of people are drafting next week. So get ready for it. If you're drafting this weekend and you're drafting next week, you're doing it right. If you drafted before then, see about pushing it back, because there's still information that we're getting that would materially impact how you would draft. So there it is. Neil Smith, Jason Draven, Mike Burland. You all know us by now, or you have somehow stumbled across this as the final show as part of the YouTube algorithm. This is the finale of the 32 teams in 32 days series. So if you've missed that somehow, go back in time and know that we have done one show for every team as your fantasy draft primer for this season. We do this every year. We go team by team. And this right here is the culmination of that. We're going to speed run you through any takes that need to be updated right in advance of this weekend. And there are a few things that that need to get addressed. So that's where we are. Anybody got anything to add to that? Everybody happy?
No, all good.
All right. Well, as promised, we're going to do one other thing tonight. And it's because we wanted to have a conversation with y'all about some of the changes made to Sleeper. Sleeper, not a sponsor. Just people we think are cool. They've come up with something that a lot of fantasy players, and we've all been doing this for a long time. Like, and we have interest in it. Like, so this has always worked a certain way.
Yeah.
And
usually
Sleeper,
you've had to ask a commissioner to do it.
Right. This is normally something you would have to ask a commissioner for. But, and they may or may not help you, depending on how cool you are. But the situation that we have now is Sleeper continually changes the game up. These are the people that are really innovating in the fantasy space right now, as far as I'm concerned. I think we would probably all agree on that. Like, these are your innovators. They're at the cutting edge of like what you can do in fantasy. And what's interesting about this situation as it relates to them is they just keep coming up with different stuff. And I think they're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. But they made a change that is kind of really divided the fantasy community here. You got some people that are very excited, and you got some of the boomers that are like, not my fantasy football. Get this out of here. It ruins the integrity of the game. Brr. And I tend to kind of land in the middle of those two ideas. I get why we're doing this. And as we get into what it is, I think people will understand why I kind of straddle the fence a little on this. And I know some people that'll be very excited, and I know some people that'll be like outraged because it's corrupting the integrity of the game. So what it is that Sleeper has announced the ability to have auto substitutions.
There it is. Amazing.
It depends on your perspective.
It's amazing for me.
It's for you in your very specific use case that you have to work on Sunday doing this. So you don't get to make last minute roster adjustments. It's good for you. For other people, they will have a very different opinion to this about, especially if you're a traditionalist. If you're a fantasy traditionalist, you will not like this. So what it is that Sleeper, specifically Sleeper, so I don't want to hear from you if you're talking about does my ESPN league do this? No. Does my Yahoo league do this? Stop playing on Yahoo. Does my fantasy league do this? No. That
app barely works.
Yeah, it doesn't. Do it on a computer like a grown up. I said what I said. Yeah, I said what I said. I meant it too. I looked you right in the eye when I said that. I didn't even blink or nothing. I'm talking to you. Like, that's so use a computer like an adult. The come at me, Zoomers. You think I'm afraid of you? You think I'm afraid of you? I can't even understand what you're saying. I don't even understand you. So why would I be afraid of you?
Skibbity.
I just alienated like half the audience. Perfect. We're right on schedule. That makes me sound like I'm a traditionalist. I'm not. I actually do agree that something like this was inevitable. And I do like that Sleeper has put it as an option. So this is not a default.
You
and
have
this
to do it.
and this only applies to Sleeper. So what Sleeper has done is they've added the ability to do auto substitutions. So Jason, I know you're very excited about this. So take us through the basics of how this works.
All right. So first, the player does not necessarily have to even have an injury. So I think that's a pretty interesting part of it because
I think that's one of the things people don't like.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, because we've seen it in the past, it could be just somebody that has a lot of hype, or they keep saying like, what player was it that literally was like, "Oh, you thought I was gonna actually play?" Like,
Oh
they
yeah,
tweeted it out.
I
and
don't
was
remember
like,
who did that, but I do know.
hate you so much.
I do know what you're referring to, but I don't remember who it was.
So, but again, with the things that you're uncertain of, if they don't play, then it doesn't need to be necessarily injury related, but you can have that substitution. One of the things also attached to that, you only get 3. It cannot be the same person for
3
each
max.
Yeah, it's up to 3
per week.
Per
Yeah,
week.
per week.
Yes.
But it has to be, the substitution has to be that position. I think goes into a great, I mean, theoretically, it should be your flexes anyway, unless you just have somebody who's a true bell cow at that position. You have them in an actual position. But I would have it in flex so I could use multiple players. That way you're not having to really pick and choose on what kind of, if it's a wide receiver, it has to be a wide receiver. You also can't use that one player for each one of them. It has to be different players for each player that you're designating. So it's a lot, but the whole idea is just the fact that you have somebody that is, I mean, for me, it's going to be more questionable, or you think it's 50-50. You can have another player immediately ready to play. The other kind of stipulation is that they have to play after that other player. So if you have a player that you're substituting in, they have to play after the player that you're substituting in for.
And to be clear, if that player that's questionable plays a snap and they leave the game after one snap, you don't get you don't auto sub it out. So I think we're a little bit freaked out, like, oh, it's turning into best ball. It's like, it's nowhere near what best ball. It's just, the big thing is those questionable ones, and someone, especially West Coast people, where the game starts at 5:30 and you're still working and you can't check if they're ruled out or not, or London games when they're on at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
for
that's
West
where
Coast
I'm
people.
actually. That's where I'm actually planning on going to be using it, because
that's a big
I
one.
am living.
Who's it? Kamara last year. Although he wasn't even like, whatever. We don't have to get.
But Mike, you and I, we live in the same time zone, which is Mountain Time, best time, and it is. People don't know because there's not enough people that live here. Shh, don't tell anyone. They'll move here. We don't want that. The thing is, those games are at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
For the London games, it's like, dude, I'm not getting up. I'm asleep in my comfy bed. So in the past, that's always meant that I don't want to play guys in the London games. There are other reasons for that, because playing in the London games, playing your fantasy players in London games, is usually a bad idea. But there are times where that might come up, and you're not just going to be around to check it. So, and I appreciate, Mike, you clarifying, because you are 100% correct that if your player that you designate goes out and takes 2 snaps and then falls over and is done for the day, auto sub don't help you. This is what's that?
Said T. Higgins.
Yes.
Notorious for that.
Yeah. So that's like, you don't get out of that.
Yeah.
But if they don't play, it will auto sub. And where I do like about this is, we all know that guy who's hitting up the commissioner. Oh, I was doing this and I didn't have a chance to. Can you make that move for me? And like this, yeah, and that's why we don't make those moves for you. That's why we just make you eat it. So that's the situation where that actually really cuts down on the burden the commissioner has to carry. It's less text for that person. They don't have to deal with that nonsense. They can just tell you have the ability to auto sub. Bye. Like it's that type of situation. So there's a whole article about this on Sleeper's website. So if you are interested in it, just all you'd have to do, it's called The article is titled "How Does Player Auto Subs Work?" Or you can just Google sleeper auto subs, and it'll be like right at the top of Google, and that'll help you. So just read through it. It is a big change because you could very easily, designate this, and I think it would make a lot of sense. And you get an option. You don't have to designate the ability to have all three. Your league could decide that you want one sub per week. Great. That actually, I think, makes a lot of sense because in that reality, all you're doing is just taking some of the strain off the commissioner, where it's like you can just designate your auto sub and I don't have to have this back and forth with you. Like, because that also upsets the other people in the league when you constantly have someone going to the commissioner and asking them to make adjustments. That annoys the other people that are in the league. It always does. So, especially when you have somebody that is a habitual line stepper with that. Like, nobody gets mad about it if it's once in a while or if it's one time. But when it's literally every week, it's like it eventually gets really old. And it's like you don't want to be that guy, nor do you want people in your league thinking you're that guy. So you would rather, this would be a nice compromise to that. But again, check out that article. You do have to enable this. It is not a default. It's something that I would actually discuss with your league mates before you draft. It's something that I would have that conversation so you're not changing the rule later. It's only available in the mobile app. So right now, they are planning on rolling it out to the web version, but there's no timeline on when that will occur. Let's be honest, that was always going to happen because it's Sleeper and it's a phone-based company. You're going to have to set it up on your phone if you're going to do it. And you're allowed, as Jason said, you're allowed no more than 3. You can't double up. You can't just have one person in multiple sub spots. You know what I mean? So it's that type of deal. And critically, you also cannot use a player like later.
Yeah. So if your subs plays on Thursday and the guy that is out plays on Sunday, you can't use the guy on Thursday.
Right. So you would need to designate. So if you're worried about a guy on Sunday, you need to designate someone from later in the day on Sunday or on Monday. That's how it's meant to work. So, Mike, do you have anything else on this topic? Because I know, what do you think? Did we sum it up pretty well?
No,
I
yeah,
know
that's
you've
good.
looked into this. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the big sleeper PSA. So there you
Well,
go.
And if you're not on Sleeper yet, you can actually
Sleeper.
put all of your history onto Sleeper
Yes.
for your league.
Yes.
So if you need a selling point on getting your league into Sleeper, which you should do,
I am
For the
a
most
very
part.
bitter old person who doesn't
know.
like change, and I will even tell you that moving to Sleeper is a good idea. Like, and that's just the way fantasy works. Over time,
because they
things
care
move
about
on.
you.
Well, things move on. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, because I'm old, Yahoo was the primary weapon of choice. And I won't even play on Yahoo anymore. I've turned down leagues. People have invited me to play, and they're like, we're going to play on Yahoo. And I'm like, I won't deal with it. And then the hotness for a long time was ESPN. But ESPN, they're a big company, and let's just say their corporate priorities have changed over my lifetime, and they're not really interested in supporting this the way that they used to anymore. So if you're looking for the cutting edge, the leading edge of fantasy, it's Sleeper. Sleeper was a mobile app first and a website second. But over time, they've made their website better. So as we've gotten deeper into this, the website is less of a drawback. And the other thing is, as Jason mentioned, they've really figured out the import league settings to the point where you can bring in your entire league history. So I have a league that's been running since 2005 that was started on ESPN. Shut up. Shut up. I'll throw my AARP card at you. I will bury you with my senior discounts. You think I can't get cheap flights? That's where we are. So that's we actually convinced everyone to move to Sleeper because from ESPN, because we could bring all of our custom league settings, we could bring all of our history, so we didn't lose any of that, and they really have the best custom settings of anybody currently running that isn't My Fantasy League. But you have to pay for My Fantasy League, and you don't have to pay for Sleeper. And one of the nice things is that's a keeper league with a lot of custom rules. And Sleeper is able to just handle that. You can set up draft pick trading because we enable draft pick trading. And Sleeper handles that. Whereas back in the day, myself and the commissioner, we had to do that by hand. And that wasn't fun. Nobody liked doing that. So now Sleeper just handles it for us. They just do everything. They don't even charge. Do I love how they send a billion notifications to my phone and spam me? No. But I'll just tell you, I turned all that off. I just turned all that off. Like, and then the other part of it is one little note if you're new to Sleeper. Don't just open the app on your phone and then just leave it. You will roast your phone battery inside of. They need to work on that. But outside of that, even a modern phone, like I'm telling you right now, even if you have like the new Pixel 9, it will burn through your phone battery at in a rate that you will be stunned by how fast it ate your phone battery. So do not leave that on. Go in, do what you got to do, shut it off, and then come back, relaunch it. I know it's annoying, but don't just leave it open in the background because it doesn't like go into hibernate mode like a lot of modern apps do. It just sits on your phone memory like running. So it's my one criticism actually at this point. So we're going to update the takes that need to be updated, and we're going to go team by team alphabetically. So back at the beginning, Arizona Cardinals. What feels like a lifetime ago, we did the Arizona Cardinal show. So a quick note, Michael Carter was released, so no need to worry about Michael Carter anymore. And then Trey Benson is the other note on here.
Yeah, just quick thing. It might not be as I think we were hoping that maybe he'd get on the field, catch passes. Just might not be as good of a handcuff as we thought because they're using DeMarcado in that third down role. So, he's probably still going where he should be going, but maybe a couple other guys ahead of him. Keep that in mind.
He was removed from Neil's must handcuff list. Yeah. So there was a must handcuff very early for James Conner and Trey Benson. And what we've learned from when that show was recorded through the preseason is that if something was to happen to Conner, it would be a committee between Trey Benson and Amari DeMarcado. That's what we learned. So you don't feel obligated to handcuff Trey Benson in your draft to James Conner. You don't need to do that anymore. And then there's one other note. Well, two. Zay Jones, as a wide receiver, was suspended 5 games due to a personal conduct issue. Not a big deal, but just something to think of, just something to be aware of. And then Greg Dortch. Not something you're going to draft, but just know that Greg Dortch is still there, particularly with Zay Jones getting suspended. The local beat reporters have been hyping up Greg Dortch all camp. Don't draft him. Don't need to draft him. But just something to think about. That's a guy you guys might be talking about on Monday at some point, especially with Zay Jones being gone. If Michael Wilson doesn't pan out, it could very well be the Greg Dortch show pretty rapidly. So just something to know who that is. Just so that when it comes up later, you're like, Greg who? Like, no, it's Greg Dortch. He's going to play slot for them. And it seems like he might do a little more. But don't draft him. You don't need to draft him. Atlanta. Moving back to Atlanta. There's only one note here. Rondale Moore, out for the year. Pour one out for Rondale Moore. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, just generally for Rondale Moore. Man's career just has not gotten started the way that you want. It's just adversity all the time. Doesn't really do much for the other players, considering we only like Drake London anyway. So, but just know that Rondale Moore might still show up on your app that you're drafting on because they don't update it. Don't draft Rondale Moore for a litany of reasons. Don't draft Rondale Moore. Baltimore. Keaton Mitchell on the pup. So going to miss the first 4 weeks. What do you guys think about that as it relates to anything Ravens running back room? Mitchell was a sleeper.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Jason. Yeah, okay. I mentioned it actually on the Ravens show that there's a rookie they have, Rasheen Ali, who's a little beat up as well, made the cut. He's kind of their RB3 right now. And honestly, if something happens to Henry, I think he kind of jumps Justice Hill because we know what Justice Hill is. Again, a name to know, not someone to draft, but maybe if something happens to Henry, might be talking about Rasheen Ali.
Yeah, maybe, especially because to your point, we know what Justice Hill is. But right now, it's pretty much the Derrick Henry show at this point. and it looks like they're just going to run him until the wheels fall off. So that's kind of the big takeaway here, is that Keaton Mitchell might have had some kind of opportunity, but with him missing the first 4 games, and then it's going to take him a few weeks to round into form. By the time you're actually talking about anything related to Keaton Mitchell, you're talking about like week 7. It's not relevant for your draft. So the only draftable Ravens running back is King Henry, and that's it.
Also, Mark Andrews has like not been practicing for a while. Not really sure what it is, but
yeah. No one seems to be reporting on
it.
that.
Yeah, and it's been a while too, like at least a week.
And if he is going to miss time, I see where you're going. Wheels up on Isaiah Likely.
Oh,
yeah.
Still wouldn't draft Isaiah Likely, but that would be a waiver claim that I would be highly interested in making.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're me and you don't draft tight end and you just don't care because you can just find them. Then you just waiver claim Tyler Conklin every week and then cut him. Well, like that's kind of where I'm at here. But yeah, I do. That's a good call, Mike. I didn't think about that. But yeah, they haven't been really reporting on that at all. So it's weird. I don't know if it's a big deal, but
he had that car accident.
Yeah, and that was the last thing that we really heard.
Yeah,
no non-contact since then. So.
Yeah, I don't know. We're just gonna have to see something to monitor for week 1. Talk about the Bills real quick here. Jason's favorite player. Go ahead, Jason. I'm gonna make you say it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Curtis Samuel is week to week with turf toe. Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah,
I just
you know you can read.
I know it just.
I know
hurts,
you pretend like you can't read because you prefer not to, but I've seen you read before. I know you can read.
Occasionally, I guess I can, but
no, it's just a game. You're like my younger brother who just pretends that he can't read when I know damn well he can read. He just doesn't want to.
Yeah, man. It definitely puts a little bit of a damper on it, because turf toe is something that really hangs around, and so
very easy to re-injure.
Yeah,
Jelani Woods, who we'll get in, is missing an entire season because of it.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, Curtis Samuel also likes to just play, and he doesn't really seem to matter what's going on with him health-wise. He'll be on the field for you. So if that's the case, I mean, I could very easily see Samuel doing that, but I'm definitely tempering my expectations, at least for the first 2-3 weeks, just because of that.
Feel it out a little bit. It has made me kind of be a little less willing to draft Curtis Samuel unless he falls in the draft room, because I don't really want to deal with it. Like, I acknowledge the upside, but we've also seen Curtis Samuel get nicked up a lot over the years, and he will try to play through it, but that doesn't always work. And it's it makes me a little more skittish than from where we were with the Bills show, for sure.
Yeah, and their receiver rotation in preseason didn't really clear anything up. So MVS did get hurt, which maybe obviously not relevant for fantasy, but just for the other guys. But they were using Mac Hollins, and Keon Coleman out wide, and it was just Shakir looked like the guy, and then it looked like Coleman. So
that room is going to be a mess.
It seems like it. Yeah.
It's going to be a real mess.
Separate, but
to the point where I honestly have just kind of been trying to stay away from it. It's a headache I don't really feel like I want. Good team, someone's going to make out like a bandit.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be like 3 other people who are very sad.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't like my 25% odds on picking the right one at this point. Whereas a few weeks ago when we were doing this, Samuel seemed like the slam dunk, and then with the injury now, it's like it's thrown it wide open, and it's like I don't like that. Makes it very hard when they're all. I wouldn't say they're all the same because they all do very different jobs and they're different players, but it's going to be hard to figure out the proportion.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a pain. Carolina, 2 for Carolina. Rashad Penny retired. Nice and short. That's a real.
Thanks for your service, Rashad.
Yeah, what could have been with Rashad Penny? You know what I mean?
Thanks for those 5 weeks in 2021 or whatever.
Yep.
It was.
Oh man,
awesome.
When you finally saw what the reason he was drafted the way that he was, you finally saw it, and then that was it. And that was it. The NFL's a tough business, man. What's interesting, more relevant, Jonathan Brooks is going to start on the pup. their highly anticipated rookie just couldn't. And this is not shocking, by the way, because of how what happened in college to him. So it's not really surprising. He wasn't really practicing much to start the year. So you're going to miss the first 4 games. And then, Mike, you had the note that he's not even going to be able to practice in the month of September. Like, he's just on IR.
Yeah, he's not going to do much. I mean, Chuba Hubbard is a pretty good value right now.
Chuba Hubbard
like,
becomes a steal. Yeah, Chuba Hubbard becomes a huge steal.
Huge steal. Like they basically said, like, sorry, Miles Sanders, it's all Hubbard. And that first 4 to 6 weeks, because they're going to, even when Brooks' first game back, you could still probably use Hubbard the first. They have no reason to rush him back.
They're going to run Hubbard for the first,
I'd
say for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
You can pretty much expect for about 8 weeks that it's going to be the Hubbard show.
Yes.
Because they're going to work Jonathan Brooks in slowly because this team isn't going to win anything. They know they're not going to win anything. So this is an evaluation year.
Yeah.
So what is the point of crushing your highly touted rookie for a lost season? So I think it's at least half the season. It's the Chuba Hubbard show. And then it'll diminish as we get to the halfway point as they start to slowly rotate Jonathan Brooks in. And then you'll see more Brooks as we get into the later half of the season and a little bit less Hubbard. Because if they're going to ask Hubbard to do what I think he's going to do, he's probably going to get hurt. Because there's a real chance that he gets nicked up doing what I think they're going to ask him to do. Because Miles Sanders might literally not have any kind of job.
Yeah, the Panthers bye week is week 11, which is middle of November, which is pretty much when Brooks hurt himself last year.
Right. So he'll be back. He'll be playing before then. But I'd say you'd have like a couple weeks where he'll get limited light duty just to ease him in because he didn't get any practice time hardly. Yeah. So it's like they're going to have to work him in slowly, and then they're going to want to see. And then I think you'll see a lot of Brooks Thanksgiving-y into December-y because they're going to want to see what they have.
Trade target.
And that's where you're going to have the changing of the guard. But it makes me really not want to draft Jonathan Brooks and just smash that draft button on Chuba and then trade Chuba Hubbard halfway through the season to people that aren't paying attention and then just do that. Yeah. Kind of what I want to do. That's my actual advice for this.
Quietly try and pick up Brooks or take him off of somebody's IR. And
and then just move on from Chuba Hubbard around week 8 or 9 when he's at the peak of his value and just hope he doesn't get hurt and then get something nice. And even if I can't get Brooks, I don't even care. Because I'll get something else that I could use. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be on the Panthers.
Yeah.
Get whatever.
Yeah. One of my favorite trade strategies is to target that team that does take Brooks when they're 4-6 in the end of October and hey, I'll give you a usable piece for Jonathan Brooks who will be back in 2 weeks. And I start off 7-3 or whatever, so.
Well, and then the thing is they don't want to do that deal with you, but they kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, they have to.
If they want to make a playoff push, they kind of have to do something. So you can force people into making suboptimal decisions in that way. You won't make a lot of friends doing that, by the way, Mike. But
hey,
if you're friends with these people, maybe don't do that. But if you don't care, all right, let's go to Chicago. One note on Chicago in the tight end room.
Yeah, the usage is. I just want to avoid it completely. They're using Everett more and Kmet. That's what Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, is exactly what he did in Seattle with 3 guys: Parkinson, Disley, and Fance, where none of them were relevant. Gerald Everett, by the way, was with Waldron in Los Angeles with the Rams and Seattle. So I just want to avoid this. It sucks. We already worried about the target share with a lot of mouths to feed in the receiver room and Swift. Now you got a rotation at the tight end position. It's I'm avoiding it completely.
Because people are scared, if Kmet was to fall into the 14th round, I might take him at that point because it's a 14th round pick. And so what have I lost? If I need a backup tight end, you know what I mean? For whatever reason. But then again, my feelings on this. I'm the guy who would tell you either take Kelsey at the very beginning or don't even draft tight end. Or, get whatever you like at way cheaper. But yeah, I agree with the general. I have noticed what you're noticing. the local Chicago media has also brought this up, that if you're expecting Cole Kmet to do what he did last year and be Mr. Everything for them, what you're kind of saying is you think Gerald Everett's going to get hurt, which could happen. But yeah, there's a couple now, and I agree, Mike. I would just avoid this situation if I could, unless I was getting a steep discount. But considering Cole Kmet up until this news was a 12th round pick, yeah, no. He'd have to be like a 14, 15, 16th rounder for me to want to be interested in Cole Kmet at this point. All right, with the Browns, a couple notes here. Browns is a weird one, so bear with us because there's a couple notes here. Deshaun Watson is dealing with a shoulder injury. Shocker. Ask me if you've heard about that before. The Browns have also, we're past cutdown day at this point. The Browns kept 4 QBs on their active roster.
But instead decided to cut a running back.
Sure, which we'll get into in a second. But I want to talk about these QBs because there's a lot of weird reporting around this, and it's very confusing. So here's what's going on. They are not cutting Jameis Winston, nor is Jameis Winston reportedly available for trade. They are keeping him. There are a lot of weird rumors about why that could be the case. Because here's the other thing. All the local beat reporting, Mary Kay Cabot, who is the authority on the Cleveland Browns, and several other people that are good, they're all saying that there's going to be a quarterback deal in Cleveland done by tomorrow. But they won't say who it is. And that's why there's 4 QBs on the roster. So no one knows. No one knows what that means. That could be anything. That could even be a boat. You know how much we wanted one of those. Like, no one knows what that means. No one knows what that means. It's very cryptic. But every one of them has come back and said, watch this space because there's going to be a quarterback trade here in the next day. And that was supposed to be today. And then it didn't happen. So they're just sitting there with 4 QBs on their roster. And they didn't cut anybody. So if the trade was going to not happen, you would think they would have cut that 4th quarterback, right? Because you're not going to carry 4 QBs into the season. Yeah. This is weird. It's weird. It's just no one knows what to do with this information. Do you know what to do with this information? If you know what to do with this information, hit me up at @nonsense_Neil on Twitter or in our Discord. Please let me know what to do with this information because I don't know what to do with this information. And I'm normally not this confused, but I'm very confused. Well, I don't know what they're doing.
So I guess the one that I would assume they would cut would be DTR.
They're saying they're going to trade it. I don't know. I don't think they're going to cut anyone.
I know, but if they are, that's the one I think they're going to cut. Because the other one is Tyler Huntley, who has been the perennial backup for Baltimore forever. Yeah. And Jameis Winston, who is...
They just got done saying...
Yeah, they just got him.
That's our backup.
Yeah.
He's not available. Stop asking. Because, well, reportedly, apparently people are asking if Jameis Winston's available. And they're like, no.
He's a good time.
And it's like, well, you wouldn't trade for the 3rd or 4th quarterback. And you just got done saying that the backup's not available. What does that leave left? My point to you is I don't know what to do with this. It's hard for me to tell you not to draft Deshaun Watson if you were gonna. But now I don't know. I think what you're hoping for is that you get some information here in the next day or two before your draft. Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I'm just avoiding Deshaun Watson until I know.
Yeah, and just hope that he continues to slip. I mean, you get him for free, fine.
I don't know what to do with my hands. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Mike, what do you know?
Nothing.
All right, good.
Got nothing.
Good.
Yeah, it
good.
Really is.
Yeah, no one knows. So this is a very weird situation that is like not normal. Most teams have already made these decisions by now. They would have made them several weeks ago, if not months ago. And this is happening now. I don't know. It's Cleveland. What do you want? All right, let's talk about things we do know about. Nick Chubb, put on the pup. Out 4 weeks. No one's shocked. No one is surprised by this information. If you were, I don't know what to tell you. Like that's on you for not reading, because they've been very open about the idea that Nick Chubb was going to open on the pup. What was weird about that was that, Jason, you referenced that they cut Donta Foreman. Don't get it.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
I'm very confused by the whole situation.
What it also means is Jerome Ford is the Chuba Hubbard. Just copy and paste the Chuba Hubbard conversation from a second ago, and that's it. It's just the Chuba Hubbard conversation. Jerome Ford gets a big boost. And then at some point, I will trade Jerome Ford. Yes, that is what we will do.
Maybe. Do you guys feel confident with Chubb at all, though? Like,
no, I don't know. I don't roster Chubb in any league.
Yeah, probably week 6.
Deliberately. I don't roster Chubb in any league deliberately. I want no part.
I'd be surprised if he was back by week 6, you know? Like, this could be a situation where he's on PUP and then goes to IR, like, because he's not ready after 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Could do that, but the short answer is Jerome Ford to the moon, basically.
Yeah.
Like, Jerome Ford is going in, like, the 10th round, and I'd say just keep coming up. Like, if you wanted to take Jerome Ford in the 7th, I'd be like,
Zero RB people, this is your guy. Him and Chuba, you're set.
Him and Chuba would be interesting, and then you just figure it out halfway through the season. Just work it out. Also, there is no such thing as zero RB. It's not a real thing.
Yeah,
but that's too long. But that's too long of a conversation for today. It's a conversation for the future.
Importantnotchips.com/shop.
Yeah, and then the other running back they have is Pierre Strong. Yes, that Pierre Strong. Yes, from the Patriots. Look it up. Like, I can't believe he's still in the league. I actually, Mike, you wrote that on there, and I'm like, that can't be real.
That's not
he's still in the league. Like,
and
I am not confusing Pierre Strong with Pierre Thomas. So before all you people that are like, Neil's old man brain can't handle that there's 2 people named Pierre, like, that's not what I'm doing.
Or Garcon or something.
Yeah.
That would have been even better. Even older. Even older. I love it.
Not that.
I love it. You got some slap bracelets I can put on for this conversation? Jesus.
Yeah.
Play some Pogs?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to play Pogs? Like, you want to see my Pog collection?
Sure.
Like, holy crap. I haven't thought about Pierre Garcon since oh God, I had an emo haircut. It was 2005. It's unbelievable. I still had hair.
With Serge and Jenko's, baby. Let's go.
They brought that back. I'll derail this whole podcast with this conversation. Jenko's back, baby. They got outside funding. Brought the company back. Now, are they still selling the giant pants? You bet your ass.
You can still fit a 2-liter in that back pocket, baby.
Get your Faygo and your chain wallet, and it's like ICP never left. But I digress. So many people don't know what ICP is, and I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy for them not having to know what that is.
Well, we learned it. Well, maybe not. I learned it because of wrestling.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. That would be how a lot of people would have been exposed to that.
Got into mainstream that way.
All right, we've gone just
so far off the rails.
Off the rails with Pierre Garcon.
On to the Bengals.
On to the Bengals. We're on to Cincinnati. Jamar Chase is holding in. Is day to day. He showed up today in street clothes and deliberately to annoy Zach Taylor.
Mostly because Zach Taylor said he was going to practice today.
Yeah, and so he did arrive
and
then didn't dress.
What, 15
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about this. I'd still probably,
I'm still
by now, but he's going to play is what they keep saying.
He has. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for him not to play.
Yeah, he kind of has to play. He's got 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
I know he wants a new contract, but good luck. There's a line. And I know that Mason's whole thing was they were waiting for
Lamb.
They were waiting to get the Lamb thing done and the Ayuk deal done, and then the Ayuk thing didn't happen, and they did the Lamb deal anyway. And then now that they got to figure out T. Higgins, because T. Higgins can't stay on the franchise tag after this year. They can't afford it. So you got to pick something. I don't know. The whole situation's a mess. Would you not draft Jamar Chase because of it?
No, I'm still drafting him. I mean,
all right, good. Then we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Jermaine Burton is the other one. So I know there's a note on here, Mike, that you wanted to talk about as it relates to who the third wide receiver might be as it relates to the Bengals.
Yeah, it seems to be Yoshivas, the out of, I believe it's Princeton, one of those Ivy League schools. Rookie last year, super athletic. Seems to have won the third wide receiver spot, which is actually, if Jamar Chase does miss maybe a game or two in the beginning, like maybe it's relevant. But I think that it's more about Jermaine Burton. A lot of people he was in draftable range or close, at least, and maybe that shouldn't be happening anymore, at least until we see something.
Yeah, and what's funny is Mason gave us one note because he couldn't be here tonight, and he wanted us to send his apologies, and his note actually just literally contradicts what you just said, which is that he wants to put Burton higher.
He wants him higher.
Yeah, that's read the Discord. Reread what he wrote in the Discord. He wants to raise Burton up the board, and you now
after one big game,
we're literally having the same conversation in reverse from what we had on the show. You were like, no, it's Burton's great. Forget about
Yoshivas.
I've never been able to pronounce this correctly. It's like, forget that. It's Andre. Burton, baby. And now you show up here like a month later. No, Burton's getting outplayed. And Mason's like, no, Burton back on the board. And I'm like, the two of you need to get on the same page. Can you get on the same page, please? Because for me, it's Burton, and it's never not been Burton. It will continue to be Burton until I'm proven wrong definitively. It will continue to be Burton.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think this idea that Burton's going to replace the Tyler Boyd 90 targets is
I don't know about that.
Not going to happen. So,
but I think Burton's not dead.
No, but what it probably means is just avoid both until you see like what plays out. Because
that's the real analysis. Yeah. That's the real analysis, is probably just avoid all of this because it's not really being drafted anyway. And so let's just move on from it. Cowboys. They signed Dalvin Cook today. Means literally nothing. They signed Dalvin Cook today. It means absolutely nothing. Anyone who thinks it does mean something is Dalvin Cook's agent. Means nothing. I want to spend no time on this. We referenced it before. CeeDee Lamb got his fat payday. The second highest non-quarterback contract in the history of the NFL. There you go. $100 million guaranteed. Now that's walking around money. That's some cash. So if you had any concerns about CeeDee Lamb going number 2 off the board for your fantasy draft this weekend, don't worry about it. Don't even worry. Don't even trip, dog. Don't even trip.
We saw someone in our Discord get him in like the 7th or 8th pick. It's like, geez, he's before he signed.
What a great deal. Man. So he goes right back to number 2. Mike, you wanted to talk about Jalen Tolbert? Weirdly.
Yeah, just to know, maybe a late round flyer, waiver wire guy. He's been getting a lot of hype. This is one of the best
every year.
Like Michael Gallup used to, where he was the third guy, and they keep trying to make a third wide receiver matter on the Cowboys for like the last decade, and it's never happened.
The difference being now your wide receiver 2 is Brandon Cooks, who he's a fine player, but
careful.
He's going to be 31
You're talking
years
to
old.
the president of the Brandon Cooks fan club up above you. Not me. That ain't me. I ain't talking about myself.
He's a fine
I am not
player.
The president, founder, and co-chair simultaneously of the Brandon Cooks fan club. That's that other guy who's on this show.
Well, one of the things I like is when teams who rest their starters in preseason, the teams that do that, and I see a guy like Jalen Tolbert, they just didn't play him at all in preseason, basically saying, we know what we got. He's going to be our wide receiver 3. Just saying, like, one of the best passing offenses in the league. They need CD can't just put up another 2,000 yards or something. I just think they can spread it out a little bit more. So probably more of a waiver wire guy, if anything, or dynasty.
Yeah.
Deep stash.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind because we have seen the third guy have value in very limited sample. But it's definitely not something I would draft. But I would know that Jalen Tolbert is definitively the third wide receiver on the Cowboys. A team that is going to throw. So if anything was to happen to Ferguson or one of the other players, that's when I would get interested in Tolbert because he's going to have to step up at that point. Denver. Talk about Denver here real quick. Bo Nix was officially named the starter. after the preseason performances he put up, I can see why. Bo Nix did a lot to really shut the haters up.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I was never a Bo Nix hater, but I'm not really what I would call a Bo Nix fan. I kind of line up as indifferent to Bo Nix. I saw him play a lot in college. So I saw him play a lot, especially at Auburn, where I was like, ugh. And then he went to Oregon, and I saw some of those games, and he looked pretty good. I'm like, okay, maybe that just has to do with Auburn, and they were asking him to do stuff. And people mature when they're that age; they get better. But the question I had was, could this guy come into Denver, a team that has been devoid of quarterback talent for a very long time, since Five-Head himself, Peyton Manning? Could he actually come in and be competent with like a very limited supporting cast? And he shut me up. So I completely understand why, he did what he had to do. He beat out Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. And you had to be able to do that. You know what I mean? You had to be able to beat the tomato cans. And he definitively beat the tomato cans. He's going to run. He's going to throw. And there's going to be some bad days. But I will say, I'm a little curious because anybody who's going to run that much has value at quarterback. And he still has like no real ADP. He's like QB 24 still. So it's like, I'm starting to warm up to this idea a little bit. So I'm interested in it a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. If you're waiting on quarterback like I tend to do, I could see a universe where he's like the poor man's Jaden Daniels. Very poor.
That works.
It's the Dollar Tree Jaden Daniels, but it's priced appropriately. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's kind of how I'm looking at it, where it's like, if you want a little bit of risk but some decent certainty, Jaden Daniels. But you got to give up a 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th round pick for Jaden Daniels, depending on your league. Whereas Bo Nix is like, bro, I can wait till the end of the draft. No one cares. So it's like, if that's what you want to do, he's a good compliment, Jason, in a weird way to Kirk Cousins. Because you can get Kirk Cousins in like the 12th, 13th round, and then just take Bo Nix at the end. And it's like, well, I got my steady guy, and then we got the project. See how it goes, We'll see how it goes. If it's crap, I cut him. Who cares? But it's like, would you rather have Bo Nix or Baker Mayfield at this point? If you're not starting Baker Mayfield.
Oh, yeah.
If Baker Mayfield's not your starter.
Okay. Yeah, Bo Nix for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm lining up on it, where it's like, the hell do I need Baker Mayfield for if I'm not going to play him? So it's like, it's same thing with Deshaun. Deshaun goes in that range. And it's like, I talked on the Cleveland show about how much I like Deshaun. And then they started talking about trading someone, but they won't name who it is. And I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. Pump all the brakes. Hit the emergency cord. Oh, God, stop the train. I hate it. And that's where I was like, we're walking that back. Aggressively walking it back. Like, no, do not especially when I hear he has a shoulder injury again. Yeah, they didn't disclose that 3 months ago. That wasn't what we were talking about. Anyway, a couple other notes on Denver. Weird that a team that only 3 players are draftable on has this many notes. Samaje Perine was cut. He signed with the Chiefs. Good for him. Doesn't mean much. They've kind of settled on this running back room for better or for worse. And then the more interesting one was cutting Tim Patrick after
a massive game,
playing him all preseason and telling people that he was going to be your wide receiver too, and then cutting him when you didn't even owe him any money. I don't know what to do with this information. You weren't drafting Tim. Does anyone know what to do with this? I don't know what this means. I thought he might re-sign with the practice squad today. He didn't do that either. So,
no, made no sense to me.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Strange situation.
So now they need Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin to actually do something for them, and they just never played them with Nix.
Right, and I think it will be Mims. But yeah, they've set themselves back.
Yeah,
they had all these reps they could have given to people if you were going to do this, and I don't know what to tell anyone with this. It's just something to note. You weren't drafting Tim Patrick anyway, but it really has screwed up the Denver wide receiver room. All right, let's go to Detroit. Jamar Gibbs has a hamstring injury. Are you guys concerned about the hamstring injury for Gibbs?
It's just it's a second one, like during this offseason. And so that makes me a little hesitant. He says he's going to play. So I'm not super worried, but it's definitely something that I am going to keep a very close eye on if I have any shares of him.
Yeah, the big thing with hamstring injuries that I heard from a specialist that knows about injuries is that quick burst, fast twitch, speed. It really affects those guys, Jalen Warren and Gibbs. And so it is a little bit concerning. Is it going to get re-aggravated? But you still got to approach it I guess. Maybe you knock him down a couple spots. He's not going to fall much further than where he was going in drafts, late first, early second.
Yeah, it's just definitely something to be aware of and to monitor because it also impacts the other guy, David Montgomery. Right, exactly. Yeah. And Mike, I know I hate that because I was enjoying the value on David Montgomery, and now he started to creep up because of this. I don't love it. So that's really annoying in a lot of ways, but yeah, it's something to think about. So elsewhere in Detroit, they cut Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then he re-signed with the practice squad. Don't worry about it. It's not something I would spend a lot of time on.
Tim Patrick is also on the practice squad there.
Right, and then Tim Patrick signs with their practice squad. So it's like, I don't understand anything about what they were doing with Tim Patrick.
How is Tim Patrick not beating out Khalif Raymond?
I don't know. It might just be because he doesn't know the system.
Too soon.
He might just not know the system yet because he just got there. But it was really weird.
It's something about Detroit. Like, man, if Amon-Ra St. Brown gets hurt, like I am pressing that panic button hard.
If he gets hurt and he ain't playing, that team goes in the dumpster fast. Unless
Jameson is like the real deal finally.
Right, especially if it's Gibbs and Brown go down.
Oh yeah, man.
That team goes in the toilet so fast.
Yeah, until Laporta will be up there until he gets hurt.
Yeah, until he gets hurt as well. So all your young talent at that point will be hurt, and it'll be your dad's team. Yeah. It'll literally be your dad's team of Jared Goff and David Montgomery and Khalif Raymond, and it'll be literally like it'll be like the 2016 draft special team. Like it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And they ain't gonna win nothing with that team. I'll tell you that right now. They're gonna go right back into being the Lions that I know, the terrible joke Lions. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't happen because as much as I don't like that they're in the division that I follow, they are fun. So there is that. Good for the league generally.
Yeah.
For now, until they get boring.
14 to 17 games at home, in a dome or at home.
Not fair.
Beautiful.
Then we go to Green Bay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Green Bay ever. Green Bay traded for Malik Willis from the Titans for a 5th-round pick to be the backup. Good for them. Means nothing for fantasy. What does matter for fantasy is that A.J. Dillon was placed on season-ending IR, which is good for me and bad for me. It's good for me because I don't have to talk about this anymore at all. But it's also like it means I do have to talk about A.J. Dillon probably again in the future. Because if he would have just shown up and been bad again, he'd probably be out of the league and I wouldn't have to have this conversation anymore. But now we probably bought ourselves a year off of talking about it, and then we're going to have to rehash all this again next year when he plays for Cleveland?
Sounds right.
Yeah, probably Cleveland, something like that. Like, yeah. Something like that. So, yeah, A.J. Dillon's going to be is out, which means Marshawn Lloyd moves up draft boards, but he's dealing with a hamstring injury. And it doesn't seem like a minor one. It seems like a pretty significant hamstring injury that he's dealing with.
News came out like, oh, he's going on the IR, and then he avoided it.
Yeah.
So it can't be a good hamstring injury.
He's gonna be nursing it all year, I think.
Yeah. I think this is good for Josh Jacobs. And I just Marshawn Lloyd missing time in camp and the first couple of games. He can't hold on to the ball either. He needs to learn how to hold on to it. Like, I know they always use 2 backs, and LaFleur always does. Even when he had a prime Derrick Henry, he gave Dion Lewis 215
Don't say that. Don't say that name to
touches.
me. I don't want to hear that name. I don't want to hear that name.
Man.
Don't talk to me about he who shall not be named. I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
He is famously the guy who couldn't figure out the picture. The Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis famous picture. He's the guy who couldn't figure out that picture.
Oh man,
that's LaFleur.
Frustrating.
It's insane. The man's a menace. to the fantasy community. He is an absolute menace. He is
Yeah.
now that Ron Rivera's out. It's like him and Cliff Kingsbury are the people that Cliff
Dennis
King,
Allen,
and it's and what's his name? Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith.
Yeah, Arthur Smith. Like those are the people now where it's like just the people that I look at and I'm like, if you're running a team, I don't want to deal with you from a fantasy perspective because you're just gonna frustrate me into a coma. So yeah, you got that going for you. So my advice is, Jacobs gets a boost. I'm avoiding Marshawn Lloyd if I can. I just don't want to deal with it. But I would watch out for the fact that Jacobs got a lot of tread on the tires at this point, and they're gonna spell him with somebody. But will it be too late by the time they actually do that? I don't know. So I'd be a little nervous about Jacobs, but we talked about all that during the pre-show. Nothing's changed about that. We will go and move to Houston. Houston has released Noah Brown, who then re-signed actually like immediately elsewhere. So don't feel bad for Noah Brown. It's fine. Jason, your favorite player, John Mechie. Lot of trade rumors around John
He
Mechie.
looked good.
Yeah. They just don't need him anymore.
Yeah. Well, and he was a high prospect, has leukemia, or is that right? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's still
he's
just inactive or whatever.
He went into
remission.
Yeah.
So
not a doctor, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just again, that's why but super talented player. Thought he was going to be, before Tank Dell showed up, the number 2 in that team.
He also missed a year because of what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So misses a year, then they start adding more talent. Doesn't necessarily mean he's forgotten how to play football, but it does mean that the landscape of their wide receiver needs has changed.
Yeah.
There's this team that has a lightning bolt for a logo that has no wide receivers that I feel like should probably be offering like a 5th round pick for this, like right now. Like that'd probably be smart, but that same team doesn't do smart things.
I don't know. They've actually made more trades already this offseason.
I said smart things. I didn't say they didn't do trades.
Well, even in the past 10 years with Telesco, like it was stupid. Like they've made more moves this offseason than they did in the entire.
How many of those moves would you say have worked out?
Well, we'll see how these ones go. I like so far. I've liked what he's done this year. So
we'll get to it. Either way, I don't want to spend any more time on that either. John Mechie is not something you're going to draft, but just know that he might be on the way out in Houston, and he might land. If he landed at a different spot, I could see a way for him to mattering. Like it could happen.
Denver Chargers,
maybe in season wide receiver trades are weird. Yeah. It's hard because you're going to lose several weeks while they learn the system, but you could pick him up off waivers. It's not like you had to give up anything for it, really. Yeah. So just something to know. John Mechie I don't even know if he's going to get traded. It could happen, but there were a lot of rumors around that. Mike, you wanted to talk about Tank Dell real quick.
Yeah, so a little bit potentially of a clearer picture of this 3 wide receiver, 3-headed monster at the wide receiver room in Collins, Diggs, and Dell. Dell was not playing on 3 wide receiver sets. Basically, in the preseason, he was running about 60 to 65% route run percentage, which generally is kind of low for fantasy starters. So it's a bit of a concern because it could cap his upside. Now he's the type of player that could maybe overcome it because he could score an 80-yard touchdown, and we saw that in the preseason, a big touchdown catch. So just something to note of it's going to be Diggs and Collins out there on 2 wide receiver sets, and the Texans are going to run 2 wide receiver sets a decent amount because they come from that 49ers philosophy and they want to run the ball. So unless they just change that completely and they just run their 3 guys out there all the time, which maybe they should, but yeah, something to note about Dell and his potential upside.
Yep, definitely a good one right there, because a lot of people I think were surprised by that little factoid, because I've seen that little fact making the rounds on the internet recently. So we're not the only people reporting on that. It's a bit of a concern for the Tank Dell truther squad out there. him.
I'm
There
not
we go.
concerned about it, but that's fine.
I like it. I
It's
love
something
Tank Dell too, but
it is something to just be aware of, though.
Yeah.
It's a usage thing that is worth noting.
Mhm.
Let's go to the Colts. Light notes on the Colts. Evan Hull was waived, but then he re-signed with their practice squad. All that means is that Trey Sermon is going to be their number 2. He's back now from his own injury. Doesn't matter. Trey Sermon is not really a handcuff. There's no universe where they were going to give him the whole job. It's just they're clearing up the backfield. Josh Downs, brutal ankle injury, high ankle. It's exactly what you don't want to see. He was in a walking boot. He was on one of those mobility scooters. He's out of that now, but it's exactly what you don't want to see. While he hasn't been able to play, Adonai Mitchell has been playing in the slot. So the way this wide receiver room is working currently is that it's Michael Pittman on one side, Alec Pierce on the other for as long as he can stay healthy. Adonai Mitchell plays out of the slot. Alec Pierce has also historically not been the picture of health, and he's already had a couple big scares, and we haven't even started playing yet. He fell awkwardly at one point, and a lot of people were like, well, career over. Like, it was that level bad. And then he managed to take a couple days off, and now he's back again. Just understand that it really is starting to look like the Colts are made of glass. Like, just in general, like the Colts as a team are just glass. So you have that going on. So no concerns about Michael Pittman. Josh Downs, really annoying that happened because he was having a great camp, as we talked about at length in the Colts show, and it was cut short by this. I still don't think it's going to completely rob him of his season, but he is going to be gimpy, and he is losing snaps to Adonai Mitchell, which Adonai Mitchell's been playing better than with the increased opportunities. He has been playing better. Really, what it means to me is this: there's one draftable Colts wide receiver at the moment. It's Pittman, and I'm not drafting the rest of it. Let that situation work itself out, and then waiver claim whatever else will have value. Because we honestly, at this point, I don't think we know. And then last note here, I mentioned it briefly. Jelani Woods ended up having to have surgery on his turf toe issue, and they ended up putting him on season-ending IR. I would argue this is actually good for him because he was actually about to be like a roster casualty if they didn't do that. He was probably going to get cut. So rather than cut him, they put him on IR, let him have the surgery, and we'll just figure it out next year.
Yeah, he's hoping he can get a lot of workout in and come back slim and mean and ready to catch the ball.
Yeah, and that's good for him. But it does mean that there is one less thing, the Colts tight end. What's funny about that is even removing one of them, none of the rest of them are still draftable. So it doesn't matter.
No.
It's just we'll see how that goes. Maybe that'll work itself out as well. It actually makes the Colts very easy as a team to evaluate for drafts. It's Richardson, Taylor, and Pittman, and I don't want the rest of it. There you go. Nice and simple. Jacksonville. Christian Kirk is dealing with a calf injury, and that has really messed up his preseason. So, Jason, you and I were talking about Christian Kirk might be the biggest value in 2024 fantasy. That's suckily no longer the case.
Terrifying.
Not great. We're going to backtrack to the note I skipped, Mike, but what's your Christian Kirk note? I know you have one.
Yeah, it was just the one preseason game before he got hurt. He wasn't playing on two wide receiver sets again. And they tried that last year, that first game, and Christian Kirk had like 1 point in fantasy. We all freaked out. And then Zay Jones got hurt.
I remember that. I remember a lot of people traded Christian Kirk after that one game and like fire sold it. And then they were saltier than Campbell's soup for the rest of the season about that. And I'm like, this is why you don't overreact to week one. We say this every year. You don't overreact to week one. Week one is effectively the NFL on random mode. Anything can happen in week one. It's the hardest week of our lives to judge. Can't tell you anything meaningful.
Yeah. And then, Zay Jones got hurt, and that's when they started to use him more in two wide receiver sets. It just feels like because they were using
the only one that wasn't dropping the ball, Mike. Literally.
Yeah.
I don't mean that figuratively. I'm like, he was the only one that literally wasn't just stone hands.
But they were using Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. It's just something to note. Like, those were the guys in the two wide receiver sets, which maybe boosts Brian Thomas up a little bit. I still like Christian Kirk, but the calf injury / are they going to use him in 2 wide receiver sets? I don't know. That's definitely going to limit his upside.
I'm still not afraid, but it's no longer the best value in fantasy.
Yeah.
It's not that anymore. So that's a shame. And also I did have the same note, is that the one that I think is the winner out of this whole turn of events is actually Brian Thomas.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Gabe Davis have consistency issues all over the place. And Brian Thomas has actually been pretty good so far from what we've seen. So the way that I've done this is Kirk go down a bit, Thomas come up a bit. Nothing too crazy, but I have made that adjustment in my rankings that Kirk had to come down a bit, Thomas had to come up a bit, and I did have the same note, Mike, about Davis and Thomas are playing on the outside, and Kirk is only going to play the slot, at least temporarily, and I don't love it. But that also might be good because given where he is health-wise, if they tried to push him, he might get really hurt.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then the only other note on Jacksonville is that they really want Tank Bigsby to work out.
Yeah, they do.
So they really want that to work. I don't think it matters, but I'm still not drafting Tank Bigsby unless I specifically want the Etienne handcuff, and I think that Bigsby could do it. I think Jacksonville wants that to be the thing.
I mean, he's shown flashes. There's definitely been flashes from Bigsby.
Yeah, but it's still just it's not consistent enough yet.
Not when you have Dearness there.
Yeah, and that's the other problem. So I still don't view Tank Bigsby as the locked up handcuff. All right, Kansas City. My God, so many notes. Okay, I'm gonna try and do this quickly. CEH is dealing with PTSD. So
random.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of pressure, I guess.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You're not drafting CEH anyway.
Yeah.
CEH is basically like...
Well, you thought he might.
Might, but you're not anymore.
Yeah.
But it's really weird because then they cut Deneric Prince, who they drafted in this draft, and then I think they were going to talk about re-signing him to the practice squad, but then they just signed Samaje Perine instead on the active roster, no less. And they still have Carson Steele. I don't know what this is. I have nothing. I got nothing. All my notes are in the trash. Yeah. I put them all in the trash once they signed Samaje Perine, because I thought they were going to sign Samaje Perine to the practice squad. No. They signed Samaje Perine to the active roster, and that's when I just took all my Chiefs notes and was like, dumpster. Like, we're just moving on. Like, start over. So it's like, the only draftable running back is Isaiah Pacheco, and there is no handcuff for this. And if something was to happen to Pacheco, I don't even know. Like, there's nothing to tell you. Just avoid is my advice. Any Chiefs running back that is not Pacheco, I avoid. I don't want any part of it. And I agree with your note, Mike, that we are not sure who their running back room is. I don't even know who the RB2 is anymore. Like, yeah. I literally don't. Like, I couldn't even tell you who the backup is. They say it's CEH. I don't know. Is it? Could be anything. Could be Jason. He's available. Like, Melvin Gordon. Oh, God. Melvin Gordon and Samaje Perine reunited, and it feels so good. Yeah. Oh, God.
Melvin, I'm surprised with Juju. They should just came in holding hands.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. Okay. So here's the other. Okay. This is the long one. And I'm going to try to do this quickly. So wide receiver, Rashee Rice. I'm not going to get into why Rashee Rice is having legal troubles. Just look that up if you're curious, if you don't know. Rashee Rice is having a lot of legal issues right now because he has done some things over the last year after winning a Super Bowl that are unsavory.
Rookie wide
receiver.
They're
unsavory. They're unsavory things that you should not do, just in general. So he's got a court date coming up. His court date is on the 9th of December. So we did get some clarity, which is good. What that has translated to is that today the NFL has said that he is eligible to play, which is what I was saying for a very long time, because that's how the NFL adjudicates these things now. They learn their lesson from years gone by. So according to the Washington Post, that's where we are, is that they're just going to let this play out because that's how the NFL works now. They don't adjudicate themselves until the legal system has done its thing. And they don't normally put people on the NFI list the way they used to. Mike, do you want to kick in here? You got something?
No, you can finish. I was just going to mention, like, ADP is not going to reflect where Rashee Rice, like, if whatever website you draft on, he could be down there and he should be more up because of all this stuff. So just keep that in mind. Like, look a little bit down the list if you are an ADP truthist and
Okay,
follow.
so that's part of what I was going to get into here as part of it. So I'm glad you covered it because just to finish the thought, the NFL is not going to suspend Rashee Rice until the legal system has done its thing. And they don't NFI people for this anymore. They used to do that. People got mad. By people, I mean the owners got mad about all this. So they don't do this way anymore. Now what happens is they let the legal system play out and then they'll suspend you. So if you are found guilty, then you are suspended. Because of the way that this is going to work, I find it very unlikely that Rashee Rice is going to be suspended this year. He will likely get dealt with the way that we were talking about Kamara. They're just going to give him a year and he's going to play. And then in 2025, if he is found guilty, they will likely suspend him. There is a small chance that they could suspend him in December. That could happen. If he goes to court and they find him guilty, they could suspend him for the end of the year. That could happen. There is a small chance that occurs. As such, as Mike mentioned, Rashee Rice is like a huge discount right now because people are scared. They are scared. They don't want to deal with this. This type of thing always scares people. And I'm telling you right now, I've actually been going around and collecting shares of Rashee Rice because of it. Because there is a point. The man had 1,300 yards last year. And you're getting him around the neighborhood of guys who had 900 yards. And it's like, okay. Yeah, I'm just going to.
I'll take that.
What's my worst case scenario? He misses like 4 games at the end of the year, and by then I've found a replacement anyway. Not really worried about this. So enjoy your discount. This has weirdly turned into one of the best values in 2024 for all the wrong reasons. For all the wrong, super icky reasons. There you go. Hollywood Brown is hurt pretty bad, and it's a shoulder. And you might need that if you're going to play wide receiver because of this. Especially Hollywood Brown, whose entire job is running while doing this. So, yeah. Feel like I've seen Hollywood Brown fall in every draft that I've been a part of already. He's just tumbling. And this is the opposite of the Rashee Rice thing. I agree. I don't want Hollywood Brown. Anyone want Hollywood Brown? The Ravens certainly didn't.
Not now. The next guy,
though. Yeah. So, no, we're not talking about the next guy. You want to talk about Xavier Worthy? Because I'm trying to move along. Like,
no, you're fine. I was just.
By the way, victory lap for your man Neil. They cut Kadarius Toney. I am right again. Never been wrong about this. Screw you, Kadarius Toney, truthers. I win, you lose. I stay winning. Don't at me. So there you go. Die mad, Twitter. Die mad. Like, I've been saying this since he was drafted by the Giants as a first rounder, that's one of the dumbest picks in the modern NFL era, and that Kadarius Toney isn't good, and that he has no idea. He's basically John Ross. Like, if all that mattered was being fast, John Ross and Darius Hayward-Bay would be in the Hall of Fame. There's not an ounce of route running in this man, and I wish him luck wherever he winds up, probably Washington. Right? Like,
or Miami or something.
Sure, whatever. Like, and I don't want to gloat over Kadarius Toney being cut. I'm gloating about being right after all the people yelled at me online about being an idiot because I didn't like Kadarius Toney. So that's an axe I have to grind with social media, and will have until Kadarius Toney retires. I will continue to bring this up So there you go. I don't wish ill on Kadarius Toney, the person. He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't know him. And I'm not gloating in his misfortune. What I'm gloating about is all the people that were loud wrong and telling me I'm an idiot because I thought the Kadarius Toney pick was stupid. And that's been going on for years. So I'm going to continue to bring this up. By the way, they re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster. Discuss. I have nothing to say.
He's there.
He's
That was
there.
He's a Rushy Rice insurance.
Probably, actually. All right, talk about Xavier Worthy. Talk amongst yourselves. I have no interest in this conversation.
I just want to say he's out there with the starters, like full on, not coming off the field, and generally for rookie receivers, Andy Reid, they bring him on a little bit slower. So without Marquise Brown potentially hurt, that ADP is looking a little bit more reasonable for Worthy.
Yeah, I mean, he might end up just being the wide receiver too on this team, because the big thing was we were nervous about Brown being that guy since veteran presence, wanted him, showed up on the team. They're similar style of play, and he's a vet. So now that he's out of the way, where they have 3 weeks to show that could be the guy. And young guys kind of have that axe to grind. They want to prove it, and on this team, I think he might have the opportunity to.
Raiders.
Finally.
Not much here. Jason, we were right. They named Gardner Minshew the starter. Called it. Yeah. So there you go. Doesn't matter. You're not rostering Gardner Minshew, but it makes me feel a little better about some of the skill position players just because I know who Gardner Minshew is and what he's capable of. Mike, what do you want to talk about with Zamir White related?
Yeah, his usage in preseason was strange. Usually, if you know who your number one running back is, and he's going to be your bell cow in the sense of the guy that's going to take all the first and second down carries, they were just using him into the second half when other starters were benched or sat for the rest of the game. Very, very strange. Just makes me very nervous about Zamir White because we already know he's not going to catch passes. We're not sure how good this offense is going to be. So where are the touchdowns? And they might not even be sure he's like their guy. So I think they might be out on Zamir White. And I'm okay with being wrong about it. So
yeah, I'd be willing to be wrong about that too, to be honest. Brock Bowers is dealing with a what is it? It's a foot injury?
Yeah, some kind of foot injury.
I don't want Brock Bowers anyway. He's not even dressing. Yeah. Don't draft Brock Bowers, okay? That's my actual advice. Is just don't draft Brock Bowers. Period. Let someone else deal with it. Even if he was healthy, my advice to you would still be don't draft Brock Bowers. So there you go. All right, let's go talk about the Chargers. And I swear to you, if you drag this out, I will end this show now. You think I'm kidding? Like, all right. So they traded today for Taylor Heineke. You all know my feelings about Taylor Heineke. This is the most Chargers thing ever. Let's get a bad quarterback to be on our team. Good. Love it. Let's give up.
I mean, I think he's better than Easton Stick.
Is he? Is he really?
For fantasy? Yeah, I think so.
Is he? Or is it the same guy? Or is it literally the same person? Have you ever seen Easton Stick and Taylor Heineke in the same place?
We will now, right?
We're about to.
No, that's a hologram. That's the Tupac hologram from Coachella. Is he? Because I'm not actually sure. So it's like, I've seen a lot of Taylor Heineke football. It's deeply unimpressive. So, doesn't really matter super much for fantasy, but that did happen. They also released Isaiah Spiller and then re-signed him to the practice squad the next day. So, nothing too crazy there. What do you guys think about the wide receiver room now that we've had some time to look at it?
Palmer, like we said in the first show.
We'll do that
Palmer.
quick. Palmer to the moon.
Yeah.
Palmer,
like we said, I don't understand why this.
Well, we talked about this, Jason. You remember when we talked about just a minute ago that like Christian Kirk was like the best value? Move over, Christian Kirk. It's Josh Palmer time. Like that's now like right near the top of the tree as far as best value in fantasy. It might not be the best value in fantasy, but it's up there.
Hmm.
I got him in a draft I'm doing in the 10th round. And I'm like pretty cheap for a starting wide receiver, you know what I mean? For like a wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
and I've seen him go later than that.
Yeah, his ADP is still way down there, like 13th round or something ridiculous.
I reached into the 10th and I was like, sweet, got the wide receiver 1, like, nailed it.
Yeah, it blows me away. It's like nobody watched any of his snaps last year.
Well, no one watches the Chargers. You can't walk into that. You put that on a tee. You put that on a tee. What do you want me to do? Not swing at it? Like, I agree. Chark's going to play a lot too. And then what do you guys think about Ladd McConkey? There's still a lot of hype around McConkey.
I mean, I like the talent. I think he's definitely going to have a role, especially since we're not really sold on any tight end. Like, they're playing more 3 wide receiver sets than they will have instead of running 2 tight end sets. And so it would make a lot of sense that way. But
yeah, but they are only using him on 3 wide receiver sets on a team that might not throw the ball as much. So
people keep saying, man.
No, I agree. People are exaggerating, but they aren't going to throw it 700 times like they did with Staley a couple years ago. So it's going to be closer to 500, 520, which is still a lot. But yeah, I just don't. And like you said, yeah, they maybe more 3 wide receiver sets, but they're still going to want 2 tight ends out there because that's their run formation. So I don't know. I think I'm out. I like McConkey. He's going to have a role. Good player. Good for Herbert. Probably out on him in fantasy year 1.
Okay. Did you see the block that he threw?
Yeah, I did. It was pretty awesome.
Like, that is the guy that you want blocking for
Jason. You're getting so close to where I'm going to end this show. Like, I will literally thank everyone for their time and tell them to keep up the nonsense if we're going to start talking about blocking. This is why I've brought this up in the background that we can't talk about the Chargers with the 2 of you because it devolves.
Rams.
Well, it's just, again,
no. There's one more Chargers note, and it's because Donald Parham was released. And there goes the dream of Donald Parham starting for your stupid team. And now there goes 2 years of my life having to hear about it. And he signed with the Broncos practice squad. And that's where he can stay, as far as I'm concerned. I welcome him here in Denver, where he can stay on the practice squad. Because you want to know why? Because now I don't have to hear about it anymore. And you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start talking about Donald Parham on the Broncos as the potential starter and waste your time. So you can see how you can feel how it works. Yeah.
It's
16% touchdown rate, baby.
It's funny. So if you want to hear a Donald Parham rant, go to San Francisco minute 45 and listen. But I said he signed with the Broncos as a joke, just to kind of like get under your skin, and he actually did.
He actually did. He actually did do that.
He said that, and I literally today.
It's like you DM'd him. Yeah, it's like he did. It's like you DM'd him, and then Jason DM'd me, and I'm like, good. Let him stay there on the practice squad on a team you don't care about, so I don't have to hear about it anymore. All right,
the Rams.
A couple quick Rams notes, short. Kyron Williams, punt returner? What?
He said that last year, too.
Yeah. Don't read too much into that is why I put it there, but it is wild. Don't listen to McVay. McVay has no incentive to tell you the truth, okay? Like, just don't listen.
He does not care about your fantasy team.
He does not care about your fantasy team, and he'll tell you that to your face if you ask him. Like, I know, I've seen the footage. Like, remember Todd Gurley? Remember that old conversation? Yeah, he don't care about you. And then what do you guys want to talk about Jordan Whittington for? Why do we care?
Name to know. Came on in preseason. Wide receiver 3 for the Rams.
UDFA.
He was a 6th-round pick.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a 6th rounder.
Jordan Whittington.
Just Demarcus Robinson is the wide receiver 3, and that guy's been in the league for 9 years. Has never had 500 yards. He had a good stretch last year. Puka and Cooper Kupp injury prone. Name to know, but
I don't know about injury prone. I'm sorry that they have bones.
Yeah.
The big thing about Puka coming out of college was like potentially he couldn't stay healthy in college, and then
that's true. That's true.
Cooper Kupp the last 2 years.
We've seen that. Cooper Kupp's getting old. That's just what it is. Cooper Kupp's got a lot of tread on the tires, and he's just becoming older. It happens to the best of us.
Well, everybody keeps saying that Jordan Whittington is like this year's Puka Nacua, and I'm like, that's funny. It's on the same team.
It is on the same team. All right. Name to know. And then Tyler Higbee opens on the pup, so that means Colby Parkinson will be starting at tight end for them, and no one cares. Miami Dolphins, quickly, Odell Beckham is dealing with an undisclosed injury. He's going to start on the pup. That is not news. They've been saying that forever. That's not something to worry about. And don't worry, just move on from it. He'll be on the pup. Who cares? That concludes the Dolphins. Minnesota Vikings. JJ McCarthy is out for the year with meniscus surgery. That hurts. Because now that means it's going to be Sam Darnold. Whoopee. Mr. Seeing Ghost himself. So at least now there's consent. There's clarity. At least now we know. So there you go. Don't draft Sam Darnold. Don't worry about JJ McCarthy. It is sucky that we won't get to see him this year. We'll see if he can get right and then be back for next year. Jordan Addison, in addition to his legal troubles, now has an ankle injury. He's saying he will be available for week 1, and I hope for his sake that he is, because he is finding himself in the doghouse, like with a lot of people around.
Talk about a lead foot, man.
That might be the funniest thing you've ever said. That might legitimately be the funniest thing you have ever said in your entire life. Like, I'm glad it was recorded. I'm glad we recorded that, because it is a really good joke. It might be the funniest thing I've ever heard you say. We've been doing this for like 8 years. It feels like we've been doing this since what, like 2017 together? Yeah, we're coming up on like 8 years. That might be the funniest thing I've ever heard you say. That's incredible.
You're welcome.
You've been working on that all week?
Nope.
Okay.
Just I saw. I was like, that's. I mean,
you're working on your tight 5 for the Comedy Store. Football related jokes. Like that's what we're doing.
Well, dad jokes weren't working, so I had to move something else.
Yeah, that's joke. Okay. Good jokes. Yeah, it might be the funniest thing I've ever heard you say. Jalen Naylor is likely going to be the wide receiver 3. And then Mike, do you really care about Jalen Naylor, even if that did happen, like from a real football perspective? I know KJ Osborne mattered for like 5 minutes, so people insist that we talk about the wide receiver 3 for the Vikings, but
it's only if Addison is suspended or hurt, but that's about it.
All right. Cool. And then TJ Hawkinson is on the pup. Least surprising thing in the world. We talked about this at length. The one thing I will say about TJ Hawkinson is if you play in a league with IR slots, he's falling to such a level that I would take him in like the 14th round, 13, 14, stash him, especially if I have multiple IR slots. Oh yeah. And then, because then I could actually conceivably hold on to him. But outside of that very limited thing, I don't want him. You got to have at least one IR slot for that advice to matter. And I'd prefer that you had 2. Because even if you only have 1, you're probably not going to be able to hold him for as long as you need to. Is there anyone else that we care about at tight end for this team, with Hawkinson being out for at least 4 weeks and realistically probably being out for half the season?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Munt was the guy they used in Hawkinson's role, like in preseason. So, and last year, Hawkinson missed the last 2 games, and Munt averaged 50 catches or 50 yards and 4.5 catches.
All I'm going to say is this. Probably not a lot of happy school day memories for Johnny Munt. I'm just saying. Good thing he played football. You know what I mean? Like, very, very close. He could rip me in half like a phone book if he wanted to. I don't care. That's fine. Joke's on him. If he does that, I don't have to go to. I don't have. Never mind. No, never mind. I'm just going to stop that train of thought right there. New England Patriots. Jacoby Brissett dealing with a shoulder injury. That looks serious. They've decided as of yesterday who the quarterback is going to be, but they have not announced it to the team, so they will not announce it publicly. You won't know for the next day or 2.
Because you get such a great advantage against your team if you hide your. It's so dumb.
No, I think it's not that. I think it's literally they don't want it to be Drake May, but Drake May's earned it. And so here's the problem: they need it to be Drake May, because otherwise, well, no, the fan base will riot if it's not Drake May, because they want to win, because they don't care about money. But the Patriots are smarter than people are giving them credit for, and they've already said privately a lot that they know what their O-line is, and they know how bad it is, and they don't want to put their new rookie behind this O-line where he will get murdered, and they don't want to have a repeat of the Mac Jones situation. So you have a bad O-line, and you know it. It's like the worst O-line in pro football. If it's not the worst, it's in the bottom 3. And they don't want to put Drake May out there and get him hurt and then rattle him. And then like he's damaged goods at that point. So they don't want to play Drake May. That's why they went through this whole Jacoby Brissett thing to begin with. But now he's hurt. And the problem is that they really are going to have a hard time selling to their fan base that it's going to be Joe Milton over Drake May, because the fan base doesn't care. The fan base wants to win. So they're stuck in this really what I'm calling a game of stupid chicken. It's like chicken, but everyone involved is very stupid. So that's where we are, is stupid chicken. So they might have to play Drake May, but they don't want to, and they're trying to do everything they can to make that not happen. Now I'm going to just put on my tinfoil hat very briefly. Just, you see it? Here's the tinfoil hat. Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle. What if this is tied to the Cleveland quarterback situation? What if this is it? What if this is what they're doing? Is that Jacoby Brissett's shoulder is just wrecked, and they haven't said it publicly yet, and he's just done? But they know they can't put Bailey Zappi, who's cut and then signed with the Chiefs practice squad. And then you have Joe Milton, who no one cares. So what if this is what it is? Maybe this is the team that was trying to talk to them about Jameis Winston because they don't care about Jameis Winston. Or maybe they said no, and then they were like, well, what about Deshaun? And they were like, for the right price, anything is technically available. Is this what it is? This was my tinfoil hat. This is what I was thinking about when I was putting this together.
It's like you thought that over Minnesota?
Well, no, because see, I think Minnesota has just made their peace with the idea that they're going to put
Sam
Darnold
Darnold.
out there, and who cares?
Okay.
Because that team they still have Darnold. They can just donate Sam Darnold's body to that experiment. This is different because the other difference is that JJ McCarthy is on IR. So you don't even have to have this conversation with your fan base. He's hurt. He's on IR. What do you want from me? This is what it's going to be. Suck it up, Buttercup. This is different. Drake May is healthy. So you got to convince the fan base that it's not a good idea to play Drake May. But you know how the NFL fan bases are. Are they logical, typically well-rationed people? That no. That's why fan stands for fanatic. So that's what I think this is. I think there's a last-minute poopy moment happening with the Patriots, and they're like, I can't play Drake May behind this O-line. It's going to damage him in ways that I can't fix. And I can't play Jacoby Brissett because we literally already got him killed in the preseason because that's how bad our O-line is. And if I put Joe Milton out there, people are going to riot, and they're going to call for my job.
I'm not doing that.
So I got to
Sign
get...
Ryan Tannehill.
Right. That's a good idea. I like that idea. Mike,
Yeah.
you got a future as an NFL GM, buddy. I like it. Go call up New England. Give them your resume. You work for PFF. Call them up. They'll take you.
Yeah.
Go get Ryan Tannehill in here. But I think that's what it is. I think that's why they won't say this. Because they know that if they tell Drake May, sorry, you can't start, he's going to be furious. The fan base is going to be furious. And then they're going to start calling for people's jobs. So I think they're smart enough to know, like, we can't say any of this. And that's my theory, is that Jacoby Brissett is seriously hurt. Because that's been my theory all along, is that was the whole point of bringing in Jacoby Brissett, was to have him play like 10 games for you, maybe more. And then people are going to be very upset, and they're going to say, we've got to put Drake May, we've got to see what the kid has. But the people that are actually running the Patriots at this point are not stupid, and they know what their O-line is, and they've already seen. I brought it up to Mason a couple times. It's really bad that even in the preseason against the backups, that on every snap that you watch from the Patriots, their O-line immediately goes backwards 2 yards. And that's against backups on the other side. And it's like, that's really bad. So something to think about. Other Patriots news, Kevin Harris was cut. And then Kendrick Bourne was put on the pup due to his ACL. Mike, what did that do? What does that do for you for the Patriots wide receiver room?
It's just a mess. They're using Osborne and Tyquan Thornton out there. Demario Douglas in the slot. Maybe Douglas still take a chance, especially if Drake May starts. But
yeah,
I think I want to avoid it all. Don't draft Polk yet. I mean, he's a waiver wire guy, but
I think all of it's waiver wire guys. I kind of just want to see who they name as the quarterback, and then just wait on all of it.
I mean, PPR, I'm taking Douglas. Standard, I'll take Polk.
Yeah, but again,
I
wouldn't draft either of them though. Not in redraft. I'd wait, and because eventually, what's going to happen is they're probably going to get cut, and that's likely what's going to happen. All right, let's move on because that's going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They only have a couple fantasy relevant players, and most of it we don't even know about because they won't name a quarterback. Saints. Alvin Kamara is dealing with back tightness. Do we care? I don't care. It's called being 30. Welcome to it, son.
He sneezed.
Yep. You twisted wrong in your chair trying to reach for something. Welcome to the show. Sucks to suck. I love Alvin Kamara, for real. Like, I do. I love Alvin Kamara, the player. Like, I've loved him for a long time, but I'm watching a man age in front of my eyes. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you get older, man. Kendre Miller goes on the IR. Least surprising thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Does that mean they added Keenan Naganu, which I don't care about? Does that mean that Jamal Williams is once again the rightful handcuff to Alvin Kamara? Did it happen? What do we think?
No, man, it's Taysom Hill.
Okay.
That's just how it's going to go.
Right.
They continue to hand the ball off to the guy.
Fine.
I wish, because Williams is a blast.
Ruin all my fun.
I know.
Can't
He
have
needs a TikTok or a podcast.
Have fun and nice things. He had a podcast for a while during COVID. I don't know if it's still happening. A.T. Perry on the wide receiver side tweaked an ankle. He'll be ready for week 1. Not worried about it. You guys want to talk about Taysom Hill, and I'm going to nod politely while you do so.
I just check I know they changed his eligibility from quarterback to tight end on I think it's CBS or maybe Yahoo. So check your league settings. On both. Right. Okay. So yeah, check your league settings.
Okay, cool. All right, check your league settings on Taysom Hill. See what you can get. Again, we talked about it. If he's a tight end, kind of interesting. It's Giants. Tyrone Tracy really was on track to be like he was working his way into handcuff range because of how bad the Giants are. So Tyrone Tracy was working his way into backup range behind Devin Singletary, and then now Tyrone Tracy has his own ankle injury that nearly wound up putting him on IR, and he's going to play through it, but it's thrown a lot of cold water on the whole handcuff conversation. What does that do for the rest of the running back room, Mike? What do you like?
Yeah, just how they're using Singletary, just like they're using him. I think like 8 of their 10 snaps.
Careful. You're getting very close to doing a hand motion that you don't want me to cut and give. I can Photoshop things into your hands, Jason. I can absolutely keep doing what you were doing. I can cut that out and I can Photoshop various things into your hands. And not all of them are dicks. But not all of them will be dicks. So do with that what you will.
Yeah,
that's why you don't raise the roof with closed fists, Mike, because Steve and I are juvenile people that could very easily make some very fun gifts about that. When you're going to raise the roof, you got to do it with open hands.
Singletary.
Now I'm derailing the show. Now I'm guilty.
He might have a big role, and you just look at where he's going in ADP. He's kind of the last train to leave the station in terms of potential 3-down backs. So
he is very much the last train out of the station. So all right, I agree. 70% usage rate is on the table with the injuries, and the problem is it's 70% of the carries on a really bad team. Because you would think that would be higher, right? Anybody that gets 70% of the carries, it's like, oh wow, why isn't he going higher? Just because of the Giants. It's going to be bad. We go to the Jets. Braylon Allen was on track to be the RB2, and now that's just in the trash can. Similar to my Kansas City notes. Just dumpster. Put that away. So who's the RB2, Mike?
Who knows? Probably Braylon Allen, but they were using Isaiah Davis, another rookie they drafted right after Braylon Allen. So it's up in the air. I think we talked about it. It's probably not a handcuff.
It's not. It's Breece Hall and nothing. It's Breece Hall and then it's a committee, which you don't want any part of. So just get Breece Hall and just avoid the rest of it. Nothing has changed. As we go to the Eagles, only one note. They added Jahan Dotson. We're going to cover that later. So I'm just going to say it. They added Jahan Dotson. It doesn't matter for fantasy as it relates to the Eagles. We will cover that conversation at the end of the show. Moving on. Steelers. Russell Wilson has been named the starter. Not a surprise to me. I know it was a surprise to some people. Wasn't a surprise to me. Do we care?
They just look so bad. Steelers. Talk about offensive line issues.
Okay, that was your actual note. It's on here somewhere.
It.
Yeah, no, but I loved it. I wanted you to make it bigger. Like the actual note that Mike wrote that isn't no longer here. Yeah, there it is. His actual note. And we normally don't write in this like blunt of terms, especially Mike, who is ostensibly a professional who works for PFF and is just slumming it with us. He doesn't normally do this. Like normally it's professionalism all the way from Mike and all the other PFFers we work with. He just wrote Steelers offense looks bad. And I was like, can we put that on a shirt? Can we put that in like 40 font? Like, because it tickled me. I'm not used to you being that direct. Like normally you kind of like couch it when it's, but your one note was the Steelers offense looks bad. Yeah. And then I remembered that Arthur Smith is coaching, and I was like, "Go, Mike, go, Mike, go, make me right."
Yeah, it's concerning, very, very concerning. The offensive line looks bad. Russell Wilson looks old. Like it's
gonna do high knees on a plane.
Yep,
Everyone
exactly.
loved that. Oh wait, no, the opposite of that.
So Fields is gonna happen at some point.
Yeah,
probably.
But the problem is that. What I'm worried about, I agree with you, Mike. The offense, just to put it bluntly, the offense looks bad. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, it's an Arthur Smith offense. It looks bad. Also, other Arthur Smith offense. Well, also, other Arthur Smith offensive tropes are in play. They're rotating tight ends for no reason that I can think of, which means we've had to downgrade Pat Freiermuth, which is the most frustrating thing in the universe because it's like Arthur Smith just cannot. He's like LaFleur. He can't figure out the picture. Like, you put these people next to each other, and he just can't figure it out. So he has to rotate tight ends because that's what he's going to do. So because of that, I've downgraded Pat Freiermuth across the board, and it makes me nauseous. I hate it. Hate everything about it. Outside of that, Jalen Warren is dealing with a hamstring injury. I'm not fading Jalen Warren. If anything, the fact that their offenses look so bad has made me even more bullish on Jalen Warren and a little bit on Najee Harris. And it's made me downgrade everything else. I wasn't a Pickens guy to begin with. Lowered him. I lowered everything on this team that isn't the running backs. I actually raised both running backs,
and
lowered
Patterson.
Pickens. What's that?
And Patterson.
No, I don't rank Patterson. I don't rank Patterson. That's I'm not doing that.
Arthur Smith, man.
I don't care. It's not enough to rank him. All it does is siphon off value from things that matter.
Yeah. The play after Warren got hurt, I think it was like a handoff to Patterson.
Yeah.
Yep, that's Arthur Smith for you.
It's Arthur Smith. So what this has done,
RB, here you go.
Preseason has literally taught me that Arthur Smith has no other way of doing this than the way he knows how. And I've seen this, so I want no part of it. So I will not roster any Steelers that are not Jalen Warren or Najee Harris. And Harris, you'd have to give me a pretty big discount over where he's going. So in reality, here's my Steelers analysis in a nutshell. I like Jalen Warren at his current ADP. I want nothing else.
Well, and I'm guessing it's probably going to go down a little bit too.
Yeah. So I like Jalen Warren at his current ADP, and it's actually coming down because of the injury. I like Warren. The rest of the team I'm not interested in unless you're giving me a significant discount on Harris. I don't want any receiver. I don't want any tight end, and I don't want any quarterback. Those can be other people's problems. And I don't care what a discount you're getting on any of it. I just won't touch it. I will just let someone else handle it. So no QBs, no wide receivers, no tight ends. It's the standard Arthur Smith treatment because you can't trust any of it. And I'll take the two running backs. And hey, if something happens to one of the two running backs, then Cordarrelle Patterson will be waiver claim of the year. So if something happens to one of those two guys in a real way, if Warren or Harris can't play for real, Patterson's next man up to the moon. So there you go. The Steelers are going to be, what's that word, class? What's that? What? Dumpster fire. Oh. Dumpster fire. Like, we'll hyphenate it to make it one word. Dumpster fire. Like that's the Steelers are going to be bad. And guess what? As an aside, I lived out that way for like a decade. But I lived like near the border. So I interacted with a lot of Steelers fans. You want to know what's fun about that is? They don't know how to process being bad, that fan base. So when this happens, they're going to riot. They're going to riot, and everybody's going to get fired. I give it a year to 2 years, probably 1 year. 1 to 2 years, 2 years max. 1 year, I think, is what it'll be, though, because that'll be it. They'll send Tomlin off in disgrace, and they'll bring him back into the Ring of Fame and forgive him years later. And then they will literally, like, tie Arthur Smith to a boat and push that boat out to sea. Like, that's what's going to happen. So it's not going to go well. This is going to go really badly.
I don't know, man. I still think Tomlin's going to finish 9-8. Keep that record alive, baby.
And then they'll send him off in disgrace, and then they'll welcome him back to the Ring of Fame years later. It makes no difference. He has to like move past 9-8 at some point. So there you go. Because the pressure is going to be too much to blow it up and draft a rookie. Seahawks, no notes. We did it.
Congrats. They didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything. Buccaneers, Sterling Shepard was cut. Outside of that, no notes. So no notes. San Francisco, we literally just did this yesterday. So there's no real notes other than Elijah Mitchell was placed on season-ending IR. Just as a reminder, there is no handcuff. Jordan Mason would be the RB2, but there is no handcuff because that will be a Shanahan classic running back car wash if something happens to CMC. They'll sign somebody. It'll be a nightmare. Do you want to talk about Terrace Marshall? Because I literally don't care.
No, I just saw that he was added. So
yeah, it's nice. Good for him. Good for him continuing his career. Titans. We talked about Malik Willis being traded. No one cared. No one cared then. No one cares now. Other than that, no notes. And now we're gonna have to do some notes. Final team with notes. Here it comes. Washington Commanders. They released Chris Rodriguez, and it puzzled me. Because he was their third running back, and now I don't know what do. This is still one of the most confusing running back rooms to me because you have Eckler and Robinson, and we talked about this with Mason about no one knows how to evaluate this because Cliff Kingsbury's giving you nothing to work with. He's like, oh, we're going to use Eckler a ton, but Brian Robinson is the best running back in the NFL. And I'm like, okay, Cliff, why am I talking to you? You're such a waste of my time, Cliff. It's so fitting that you would take over for – what's that?
So he's going to throw a bunch of screens. That's about all we know.
It's so fitting that he takes over from Ron Rivera so we can go from one coach of this team that drives me insane for fantasy to go right into another one. So, yeah, now there just is no third running back. It's just going to be Eckler and Robinson. And they're both being drafted high enough that you can't handcuff them to each other. And they both have roles, so they're not handcuffs anyway. So, really don't know why they released Chris Rodriguez. Or who will – it's just a mess. They signed Noah Brown. So we mentioned that Jahan Dotson was traded to the Eagles, which was very confusing. And then they in response to that, they signed Noah Brown today. I don't think Noah Brown matters, but that's my opinion. Who is the wide receiver 2/3 on this team? Who is it? Mason would tell you the wide receiver 2 is De'Ami Brown.
Seems like it. And then maybe Zacchaeus in the slot, maybe McCaffrey, but
Jason is insistent that it's McCaffrey because his last name is McCaffrey. I don't necessarily believe any of that, but you want to know what I think? You want to know what I actually think? I don't think I care. I think Terry McLaurin is the only wide receiver I'm drafting on this team, and the rest of it's just like maybe it matters for the waiver wire at some point later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jahan Dotson's gone. You don't have Jahan Dotson to kick around anymore. It's very confusing. Are there any other notes about any team or any situation that we want to cover before we get out of here and let people go enjoy their draft?
We did it.
We did it.
It's like Malik Neighbors got one. Asked for Ray.
Yeah.
I think it was the last name.
You keep thinking about that while I sign us off. Folks, we want to thank you. If you've tuned in and made it all the way through this, and if you've enjoyed our 32 teams and 32 games series, if you haven't seen them all, check them out. We enjoy making these; they are a lot of work, but we love bringing it to you. And if you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, sign up for the Discord. Because if you made it this far, you might as well. So at least if you don't have money, I understand. Like, comment, subscribe. Pick one, even one. I'll take any of those. So help us out. It really does help with the algorithm. YouTube has changed the rules and they're very fighty about this. So the more interaction we can get, even if it's just a like or a subscribe or a comment, any of that really does help us be able to keep the lights on and continue making this. And if you really do enjoy the content that we make, consider signing up for our Discord, because that is really how we keep the lights on around here. We literally could not do this without people signing up to be part of our Discord. We couldn't afford it. Shockingly expensive, this stuff. Weirdly. But yeah, doing this is actually pretty pricey. So with that, we look forward to keeping you informed and interacting with you all season long in the Discord, on Mondays with Mike and Jason for the Waiver Wire Show, on Wednesdays with Jason and myself for Roster the People. On Thursdays, we have a new thing where Jason's going to be doing what we do on Sundays, but the Thursday edition of it, answering all of your questions before kickoff for the Thursday night games. We found that that's so popular that we're just going to do that in its own space as opposed to trying to put it before Roster the People. So come on Thursdays for the first time ever. Jason will be answering your questions, and then go enjoy the game. So no more Roster the People on Thursdays. Roster the People is on Wednesdays so that we can spread out and do our own thing without having to worry about the questions. And then on Thursday, check out the questions. That's going to be what we focus on, is making sure everybody gets their questions answered. And we'll be helping Jason with that in the background as we lurk in the background and feed him questions from all over the internet. But we usually get a lot of people to pile in for that. So if you want your questions answered, Thursdays, we'll get at you with that. Friday is Mason and Vishal. So that has not changed. So get all your gambling takes, get locked in on Friday. Get all your fun gambling and a little bit of DFS, but mostly gambling takes. I see you degenerates out there. I see the viewership on that show. I see who's tuning in. Got a lot of regulars. Yeah, you almost have some sort of burner. No, you almost have some sort of burner phone. Like, keep that from the wife. She can't know about any of this. She can't know about all the extra money that Mason's bringing in, because you're going to be at Williams-Sonoma buying napkin rings. That's what's going to happen. And then obviously it was so popular last year that we're bringing it back. We're doing Sundays again. Final Countdown is back on Sundays. Jason hosts it. I shadow run it in the background, and I'm the one feeding Jason the questions and interacting with the audience to make sure that goes as smoothly as possible, to make sure we cover the most amount of ground possible. We do have a tendency to get hugged to death on Sunday morning. So come early, get your questions answered. Please try not to wait until 3 minutes before kickoff, because that does tend to happen. And then we get hugged to death, and then people get mad. Like, you didn't get to my question. And I'm like, bro, you posted that with 2 minutes before kickoff. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like we do it for an hour. Like, it's an hour. You don't even need to stay for the whole thing. Come in, ask your questions, we'll answer them, then we'll shuffle you on. Like, if you want to stay for the whole thing, I consider you a super fan, by the way. If you stay for the whole thing of the Final Countdown, you should sign up for our Discord. Like, for real. Like, even if you sign up at the $1 tier, please, like, just sign up. Like, that's what it is. Is that enough shilling for ourselves? I think it's enough shilling for ourselves. But yeah, we really appreciate everybody tuning in for this. And we hope 2024 is going to be the best season that we've ever done, most successful. And hopefully this year all the quarterbacks won't get hurt again, because my God, that was not fun. Really sucked. Hated that last year. That was not a lot of fun. Jason and I kept apologizing to people. Like, we kept doing that because it was like, if this is your first year playing fantasy, I'm so sorry. Like, you probably think this game is horrible because it's like last year, that's how many injuries we were dealing with. So low bar. Hopefully this will be the best. This will be the best one. And with that, good luck in all your drafts. Hit us up in the Discord with questions last minute, Daniel. And shout out to Daniel, by the way. Superfan Daniel. Shout out to Superfan Daniel, keeping us entertained and asking us questions. Shout out to Superfan Bears Dan. Shout out to Superfan Aaron Cantu. Shout out to all the Superfans that really help us out to make this possible. Who's the other one, Jason? The guy I'm forgetting.
Polo.
No, well, Polo, obviously. But no, the guy who
PF Brand.
PF Brand, yes. PF Brand. Shout out to PF Brand. Shout out to P Grills. And then, no, who's the guy who just re-signed back up?
Oh, Straight Cash.
Yes. Shout out to Straight Cash. I apologize if I've forgotten anybody. I don't mean to offend, but the list is actually getting long enough. fortunately for us, that I can't keep it all in my head anymore. Like, Jason, you got to stop doing the fist bump thing.
I know.
Man. I'm gonna start cutting it, and I'm gonna start posting them in the Discord. Like you got to stop. Like, you here. I'll tell you what. The turnabout is fair play. You got all mad at me because I did this to you last year when you were doing a take on Roster of the People. You were like, that is inappropriate. And I'm like, it's funny though. Like, anyway, thank you again. We really appreciated this. We look forward to interacting with you all season long, and we will see you next week after we take a much needed siesta and then come back ripping and ready to go. But until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!